Well, hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our March 360 presentation. I'm Curator of Education Anna Smith, and today it's my honor to introduce artist Note Vital. One might describe Note Vital not only as a painter and sculptor, but also as an architect, builder, and explorer. He is part of no school or collective, yet he's an individual who has moved with the times and has proven himself a singular thinker in contemporary art. In recent years, Vital has begun to emerge as a major artistic philosopher of habitat and material life. From a series of buildings constructed from local materials in the desert city of Agadez, Niger, that serves both as an artistic and social purpose, to a sculpture park in his native Switzerland, which has been described as, among other things, a dreamscape for adults. His complex work integrates architecture with a repertoire of forms and symbols deeply connected to location. Born in Saint Switzerland, Note Vital trained as an artist in both Paris and Rome and has since embarked upon decades of travel, having bases as diverse as New York City, Cairo, Egypt, and Lucca, Italy, amongst many others. His work is held in public and private collections around the world, including the Museum of Modern Art, the Brooklyn Museum and the Guggenheim Museum, New York, the Carnegie Institute, Pittsburgh, the Musée d'Art et d'Histoire, Geneva, and the Museum der Moderne, Salzburg. Vital currently divides his time between studios in Saint, Beijing, Agadez, and Patagonia. I look forward to an engaging and enlightening afternoon with him today, so please join me in welcoming Note Vital.
Yeah, Note Vital, that's my real name, and please don't pronounce me not vital, as some people did. I'm not out of function yet. Note is a very common Romansh name, and Romansh is the fourth national language in Switzerland, spoken by only less than 40,000 people in the eastern part of the region. And the roots of this language is Latin. It's actually vulgar Latin. But I'm not here now to talk about languages. I'm a sculptor, a painter, but what I would like to talk to you and what I would like to share with you is a great passion of mine, which I've had since I can remember. I grew up in this town, in this valley called the Engadine Valley, which is the eastern part of Switzerland. It's famous for its beauty. Maybe you have known, or maybe some of you have even been to St. Moritz. It has attracted over generations many people like Nietzsche, Beuys was there, Hitchcock, Karajan, and even Brigitte Bardot. I went to school in the little village of Saint, and school consisted also of 5 months vacation. And during this long, which is of course a dream for a child, and during these long summer months, from April, summer vacations, from April till October, me and my friends, we built huts. We built houses in the trees with materials that we found, but mostly just stole in the village. And these constructions that we did needed to be quite sophisticated because the climate is very harsh up in that valley, and also winters last about 5 months. And so with these constructions, these huts needed to be well built in order to be able to spend the night in those huts. Later on, when I read Italo Calvino, it was interesting that we just talked yesterday about this great Italian writer. He wrote a book called Baron in the Trees, Il Barone Rampante. And when I read that later, it was interesting because I somehow already went through that by doing these buildings. But as a grown-up, you kind of tend to forget these important moments of your life. You might still realize dreams, you might build houses, but not with the same passion that you did when you were a child, because all these regulations and permits and restrictions that you need to build a house can easily spoil the pleasure of your dream. I was lucky that in 1999 I went to the Sahara Desert in Niger. Niger is a country twice the size of France, quite unknown. It has only the population of about 13 million people, and it's like all desert pretty much. I went straight to this town called Agadez, which is about 600 miles away from the capital of Niamey. I didn't know much about the country, but I knew, and since I've been traveling since my youth, I knew that there were two tribes, two nomadic tribes, and I'm kind of attracted to nomads. And they are the Tuaregs, maybe you know them, they are like the blue people, and the Bororo. And the Bororo are completely nomadic, Tuaregs are semi-nomadic. And so I arrived there at night in this town of Agadez and went to the only hotel at the time, which was called Hotel de l'Aïr. Like most Africans, I rose very early the next morning, left the hotel only to walk into a bazaar that the Tuaregs had set up, because they knew that at night a white man has arrived, and they wanted, of course, to make some business. And with their silver jewelry, that's what they're famous for. So I told them, well, I was not really interested in buying silver jewelry at 6 o'clock in the morning, but in purchasing a piece of land, since I already made up my mind, okay, this is the town where I'm going to live. And so they said, pas de problème, you know. So they showed me in the outskirts, in the southern part of the town, they showed me this land. One man was on crutches, and he drew a crooked line into the sand. So they saw immediately in my eyes that I liked the place, that he was right, and he was phenomenal. And so by 8 o'clock, they called the owner, a man with broken eyeglasses. So he came, and the price was right. At 9 o'clock, everything was set already. Okay, the deal was made. In the meantime, I made a small drawing in my notebook of how my house could look like in this new city, in this new country that I really didn't know. 2 hours later, I saw 5 men approaching with picks, shovels, white teeth, and shiny eyes. And I showed them my drawing, but they ignored it completely, because they don't read or draw, so this was completely useless. So I threw my drawing away and just traced the outlines of this house directly in the sand. And the 5 men began to work. Then I made a small model out of earth and dung and showed them. And they were kind of astonished to see that this house would have 3 floors, because no houses in Agadez have more than 2. But they didn't complain. They never used the word problem. They only use it when it's a real problem, and they know the real problem. And on the contrary, they loved the challenge. The house grew quite fast in the next months, and more men arrived. Clay was brought in on an old windowless truck from outside the town. Then you find, and then of course sand that you find everywhere was mixed together with straw and dung that came from the camel market. It was mixed with water by dancing barefooted men, their legs so thin. Rows of bricks were formed, like 1 by 2 feet, and laid out to dry in the African sun. The first house that you see here was finished by the end of the year with a large room, about 50 by 50 feet, 16 feet tall, holding up a bedroom, which has 4 doors in all 4 directions. And a small room on top where you can see the whole city, but also the airport where flights arrive once a week and leave once a week for Paris. So it's kind of different from flying into Dallas. The house is 42 feet high. I measured it only after the house was already finished, because there was no measuring tape when we started. Right next to the house, I added 7 rooms, kind of like to show off to my friends when they would arrive, because I wanted, of course, to share this African dream with them. But for years, no one came. So I used them for myself and spent every night of the week in another room. You can see cow horns all around the walls. And the reason for that is that the slaughterhouse in Agadez is in the center of town. It's an open space, and they use all parts of the cow, but the horns. So what they do is they burn them. And can you imagine, like, it stings so much that I decided that a young boy would go there every morning, collect the horns, bring it to the house, and put them all around the house. So now it's called, the house is called Mekaphonie, which in Tamashek, and that's the language of the Tuaregs, is called simply the House of Horns. I didn't know that the workers didn't leave when the house was finished. They just stayed on, very much like a newborn that needs care. And because after the rain, you need to apply a new layer of mud on the outside wall. And of course, if they leave, they might be out of work. So like, they just stayed on. Since Agadez is the furthest city away from Niamey, which is the capital of Niger. And Niger is, I think by now it is the poorest country in the world. I don't have to describe to you how the local school looked like. The simplest way would be just, it was simply a dark hole filled with children. So I decided to build a new school on the line right next to the Mekaphonie. And there are so many kids. I counted at the time, I think there were about 150 girls and boys, so that they needed a lot of sitting places, right? So I decided to build a school that allows all students to sit on top of the school. So the students don't go only to school, but they go on top of it. So, but from this 150 students, there were pretty soon 500. Both young and old, girls and boys. They covered the whole school building. But since the school is, because it's on a hill and it has nice views and windy, so now you don't see the school anymore. It's completely covered with children. It's kind of like a kinetic human sculpture that sings, cries, shouts, and prays. I must say it's a very touching sight to watch this daily activity unfold in front of you. The inside of the school can be used to sleep or to cover from the rain, and the school is called Makaranta. Now, you'd be completely wrong to think that I'm kind of like a person or almost like a missionary that goes to Africa to help. I'm not. But I do believe also that as artists, we have to get more involved with the third world and the problems of the third world. And since the 90s, I've always been involved somehow with projects like building a burn unit in Nepal, outside of Kathmandu, in a city called Bhaktapur. And since I'm not an industrialist, I have to subsidize these projects with my artwork. Not being a trained architect, it gives me great satisfaction to construct a school building. I could not even dream of building a school in Europe or here in the United States with all the regulations needed, but in Agadez I can. So it gives me, both me and the children, a great pleasure. In most places of the world, all this opportunity would have been refused to me. Nietzsche once he said that friendship has more to do with taking than giving. Which is kind of interesting. So I take this opportunity to go there and build a school, and of course, the children take the school. After I had finished this building, the 55 workers, they wanted, of course, more work, and I love to build. So I purchased an oasis 3 miles north of the city next to a river called Kuri. I've never seen water in this river. It's kind of like an ephemeral river, and it only carries water during the rainy season, and that's the time I cannot go there because it's much too warm. It's far over 100 degrees, and I will simply burn in the house. And the first house we built there, or one of the first houses, was this house to watch the moon and the sky. It's a solid construction of mud bricks, and it's 21 feet in height. You can only reach this house by this outside ladder, and it requires a bit of concentration and skill, not only to climb it, but also to lay on top of this house. Because the space up there is quite narrow, but somehow you increase your concentration to view the skies. I remember, like in New York, I slept under a sculpture which only hung on a small nail, and somehow I slept more deep. It was like intensified somehow. So I tell my friends in Europe and also here in the United States that I stay up here for hours every evening looking at the skies. And the millions of stars, and of course they look at me like I'm kind of an idiot. The next construction is this house against sandstorms and heat. It also has 42 feet it's 42 feet. For some reason, all the houses I built are 42 feet, or half of it. It has a narrow but high entrance, as you can see here, and on top a small opening as large as an egg, where the hot air can escape, but no sand can be blown into the house. Because even in the winter months, temperatures can reach almost 100 degrees. And so I needed a house to escape the heat, but also to escape from the sandstorms. You see these metal rods that stick out of the house. They have kind of like two reasons for that. One is to lean and attach ladders when you climb the house to apply this new skin or layer of mud every 2 years, but also for decoration. And every time I go there, I stick something different into these holes. Here you see brooms sticking out of the tower as if they would be cleaning the air when the wind blows sand with extreme speed through the desert. For any of you who have visited Africa, you will know very well the intensity and also the speed of the sun setting. It is so fast and so intense, and immediately the desert turns dark. I didn't want to miss this daily spectacle, and sometimes you even can hear the sunsets. But since I'm in this oasis, and oasis surrounded by palm trees, I had to build a high tower from which I could see this frontal view of this daily spectacle. So I built this tower, but this time on four floors. In the entire country of Niger, and maybe in all of West Africa, there is no house on 4 floors made solely of mud. There is no cement, nothing. And while I was explaining this to my workers, you can imagine the tremendous excitement this caused, right? Everyone, of course, had suggestions, but we could not consult an engineer because there are no engineers. They called me names like "Not il a perdu ses chèvres," meaning like "Not he lost his goats," meaning okay, this time he's really going crazy. But then we made a small model, and work started. The rooms of this tower, they only measure 10 by 10 by 10 feet, just enough for a bed, a chair, and a table. The first floor only has one door, and that's where the food is, like that's the kitchen. Second, one stair, one window. Third, one door and 2 windows, and the last one door and 3 windows. To hold up this whole structure, the 3 big stairs were built on the outside, leading up to each room, and you can only reach by the outside stairs, okay? And that also provides each room with privacy. The building, of course, measures 42 feet. And the big stairs to the west, that's where you watch the sunset, are out of out of 55,000 bricks and 39 steps. When the house was finished and I spent the first night in it after seeing the sun setting over the desert, I could not sleep because the emotions were just too intense. If the house would have collapsed in the next days, I would not have been devastated, because even if it was to spend a single night in it, in this tower, it would have made sense to build it. I invited many friends, some of my artist friends to this Oasis, and also Richard Long, who, when sitting on the steps one night watching the sun go down, he presented me with a sculpture of the sun. And I see that you also have like a Richard Long at the museum right here. I mean, the next museum. It's made of concentric circles of sun-dried bricks, and it is its biggest sculpture. It measures 100 feet in the diameter. I only realized the purity of this building here when the tower was built. I mean, no elements, not even a single brick needs to be removed or added to it. It is in itself pure. And that's when I decided to build one of these houses on every continent. Maybe not unlike the US, who has military bases on each continent. Now here's a sculpture I made in 2009, and this tower is made out of a single block of Carrara marble. It's 9 meters 25, which is about 30 feet high, and it's cut out of the stone, and not only the outside but also the inside. Almost 100 tons was cut and removed only through its door. And as a sculptor, I've always been interested in entering the material also. And so the sculpture becomes a habitat. So when I started, like in the Americas, to look for places, I was in Utah, which was fantastic. But then so much has been built there during the 60s and 70s by artists. So I went to South America, I went to Peru, and I almost found the right place. But then I went to Chile, in Patagonia, and I could purchase this island. And I called it Notona, which is like my name, Not, but Ona. Ona were the people who lived there. Of course, they don't live there since the 20s, I think. The island and the views are so breathtaking, here you just can see one part of it, that I decided not to build a house on top of this island. And since I'm not an architect, I can also decide not to build. But I was then confronted with a new situation, and I decided to build a tunnel inside the island over 50 yards in length. And from a small window here, you can see the spectacular views of the sun setting over the Patagonian glaciers. The island is formed of white marble, and the floor is one piece of marble 50 yards long. So this time I have been using the whole mountain, the whole marble mountain, to sculpt instead of just a loose block of marble. The material was then brought to build the stairs. Now, all what you can see at night is this. It's a small light, and in this majestic landscape. And this whole project took 6 years to build. It has been the longest and the most expensive of the projects so far. 2 months ago, while in the Amazon, I found land south of the city of Manaus, where I want to build the same house that you saw before in Agadez, with the stairs, but this time it's going to be in wood. And in front of this land, let's see, the sweet water dolphins. I don't know if you have seen, they're like kind of pink, beautiful animals. For Asia, I've been trying for a long time to get a place in Jiangsu, which is like a place in the south of China, in Yunnan. No, yeah, in Yunnan, near Yunnan. And, but I gave up this due to complications obtaining the land. But since last fall, I was given land, and this is for the first time that someone comes and says, oh, I really like your project, I give you some land. And I even build it. And this is by a collector in Shanghai, and he has this big land in north of the city of Shanghai. Last April, he gave a dinner in honor of Yapa, which is the International Award for Public Art, which was held last year at the University of Shanghai. And 141 projects, a bit like these, but worldwide, they were chosen by an international group. Projects that apply architecture, sculpture, and social engagements. And my projects in Agadez, they got the prize for Africa. And now this collector is very happy to have this land, to have this house on his land and build it. And other land I found is on the island of Flores, which is in Indonesia. I'm going to go there next week. Here you can see a model of the house where sunsets will be seen over 3 volcanoes. And each volcano has a lake, and each lake has a different color. And also, of course, 42 feet in height. It has 39 steps, again, that are leading up to this terrace. But this time, the stairs are inside and outside. They go through the wall. So you can reach the terrace from the inside and from outside. And when the door is closed, when I'm not there, people from the town, they can still use the house and go up and see the sunset if they want. Another project is in New Zealand. That's also next week that I have to go there and try to find a place. There are 2 places I want to choose. And of course, for Europe, it has been the most difficult to find a location due to complications in administrations and laws and prescriptions. But one option is in Sweden and also maybe in Scotland, an island near Kildonan, which a friend of mine, the writer Andrew O'Hagan, has shown me photographs and described this island. He even wants to write a book about it. I haven't seen it yet, but it looks very promising. And I learned during these projects, especially in Africa, but also in other places, that by involving local people in such challenges, you give them hope, you give strength and trust. We need to understand, especially like in Africa, that by giving money donations to help these countries simply doesn't work. Most organizations might work for a while, but also add up to corruption. But by being there on site and building and working and dreaming for and with these people, using their own materials, you give them challenges. That's, I think, what makes the difference, and it really works. It works actually in favor of both sides. And even if it's as basic as making a house to watch the sunset. A few years ago, the city of Agadez was flooded by heavy rain. Some houses collapsed. And I was told that some people went up to this house and protected. They put sandbags around the house. And when asked, why do you do this? They said, this is the best we have. That was a great compliment. Montaigne once he said that to live is to learn to die. If our lives would last forever, there would be always new sunsets to watch. But as our days are counted, each sunset is very special because it could be the last one. In this family in Africa, that is very close to me, it's almost my family, there are 8 brothers. And I built an octagonal-shaped house for them. So each brother has an entrance, and they can meet in the central courtyard. This house is called the 10th house, because I tried once to count them, and maybe there are 10, I don't know exactly. It's about 3 hours drive south of the city, and it's on this mountain called Tigadit. The house is carved out of the rock. It's like a suit. It's actually tailored for me, you know. It has an entrance. Oh, sorry. It has an entrance. It has an exit, enough to be called a house. And you can be in there and really sleep standing up. And then, of course, more projects planned in a town which is in need of everything. You know, one is like to build a museum for dinosaurs, some species only found in the vicinity of this town, and they're now at the paleontological university in Chicago, and they wanted to give back to the country, but like they need a place to house this because otherwise they simply would sell it off. Another project is to build a place just to drink tea, as tea is most important for the Tuaregs and for the Bororo. And then a place for soccer, which is very important for them. So there are many more projects. An important aspect of all this project is that time is sometimes more important than money. Just about all these projects were conceptualized in a very short time. In Agadez, it only took a morning to ask, to find, to buy, to plan, and to start the project. It's interesting that Tuaregs, it's a people who spend easily 4 hours a day just sitting still, sipping tea. They say what fast is good, because when they move, they move. The project in Shanghai also took just one afternoon to look and find a place to discuss and initiate the project. I like that. Sometimes I think we need to forget our Western roots and habits in order to fulfill and realize the dream. Of course, we might run into problems when speed is involved, but in our system of great prudence, we can also lose time, precious time enough to succumb a project. For 2 years, I've been trying to build a new painting studio in Switzerland, and so far, it took all this time just to get the permit. If it takes any longer, I'm not going to build it. Last December, I was invited by a friend of mine who has, Nicholas Logsdale, has a Listen Gallery in London, also has some land outside of Kenya on an island called Lamu, to work on a project. And this is a model of the project. And this time, the staircase are interior. They're also 21 feet tall and 26 steps. And now, from these benches here, you can see the sunset. And the material to build this building will be coral bricks. Outside of my hometown in Sent, in the Engadine Valley, I have been working for the last 15 years on a park with 3 bridges. It has a stage, and it has towers. One tower only made out of hair, but also a disappearing house. A house that by remote control disappears in the ground. As I told you before, this valley, because of its beauty, it attracts so many people and so many people who also want to build houses. And these houses are only used maybe 5 weeks a year. And we have to look at these empty houses that are mostly not so beautiful. So the idea here is to have your house disappear when you don't live in it. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions? Or?
Why the fascination with the numbers 42 and 39?
Not why. I don't know. It's just like something you did. The stairs are always 45 degrees, 25 by 25 centimeters, and if the house is 42 feet tall, you have either 13, 26, or 39. I kind of like numerology, but I really cannot tell you exactly. It's just like that's the way it is. You know, like you have to decide for certain shapes.
It seems like there's like three numbers deals with 1, 2, 3, and if you have 39 it equals 12 times 2 is becomes 24, and plus 2, 4, 6.
Yeah, one can always figure out something, you know, like sometimes it's far-fetched, but like, yeah.
You're one person, you have many houses. Do other people live in your houses when you're not in them?
Yeah, some people live in the house when I'm not there, yeah. I mean, not so many people live in this house. I mean, it would have been maybe a good house for people like, I don't know, Gaddafi or something.
You mean you have everything available in the house for them to live, like water?
No, you see, like a luxury is not having hot water and even water. I found out over the time that I don't have even not a toilet. I mean, I have no running water, no electricity. I was now on this island in Patagonia for 10 days, completely alone, no electricity. So you see these night skies and no toilet.
Are you having a lot of people searching the houses out, people who hear about them and want to?
What do you mean, searching out what?
Do you get a lot of visitors?
Well, you know, like, what is part of this whole project is that all these houses are so remote. I mean, to go to Niger, there are not even planes going there now. Or like Patagonia takes like 24 hours to get there. Flores you probably have never heard of either. So like, I mean, all these houses, and that's also purpose for that is that, again, maybe to recite Nietzsche, once he says something that you love, your loved one, is like to be far away, otherwise it's not your star. So this is the idea of having these houses far away, remote. So it becomes like kind of like a myth. And so there are not so many people that will ever see this. Yeah.
How many languages do you speak? Because you go to these different locations by yourself, right?
Yeah. I speak 6. But don't be impressed, you know, like, I mean, I said before, my mother language is only spoken by less than 40,000 people, and it even has 5 dialects. So actually my actual language is only by 5,000 people. So if you go 20 minutes this way, you speak Italian. You go the other way, you speak German. So, but like every farmer in that region speaks 4 languages. It's something you need. And so I only also speak a little bit of English and like Spanish and Portuguese. So it's 6, yeah.
Are there any other artists that you feel are aligned in some similar way with the way you think and work?
Kind of a nice question. I think there are, if I look back, I mean, there are three artists or 3 architects who really impressed me. Or like one is Buckminster Fuller, who he couldn't realize most of his projects. And at the end of his life, he said that he was the world's most famous failure. Another one is Rodia. I don't know if you, next time you go to Los Angeles, you should go and see the Watts Towers. It's something so fantastic that this man made this. He came from Italy. He was a worker, construction worker, a helper, and he brought in everyday materials, and he made these huge sculptures. And when asked why, he said, "I just wanted to do something big," you know. And So that's another person I really admire. And when they showed him photographs of Gaudi, who also used kind of like ceramics, he said, well, did he do this himself? Or did he have help, right? And the third person I really like is Gordon Matta Clark. He's really very inspiring. I think that he's a great artist because he's able to go from, he was a trained architect, but he's able to go from sculpture into architecture. And like, I mean, those are, for example, three people I really admire, yeah.
I would wonder too about the earth artists.
The what?
In art, like Smithson and
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, like, that's why I didn't want to be close to them or do anything like in the Midwest. I mean, those are mostly sculptures, let's say. But this is also a habitat. And that makes a bit the difference. Because, like, basically, this is really also built as a cover, you know, like as a place to live in.
it's also concept.
And also?
Concept.
Comfort.
Conceptual. Conceptual.
Yeah, concept, yeah.
So, your buildings have sharp edges and straight sides.
Yeah.
Do you ever do anything that's round? In a natural habitat,
Yeah, well, I mean, you see, like in the mountain, that's cut out of the rock. That's not completely straight. The house towards the against the heat and against sandstorms is round. It's not always straight. No. Yeah. Yes.
I'd like to tell you about, since you were talking that you admire the man from Los Angeles,
Claudia.
in Kazan, there was a man that built a
Where?
temple. He built
Where?
temples for each, in Kazan, Pakistan. He built temples of each religion, the Muslim religion, the Christian.
Yeah. Where is that in?
Kazan. Kazan.
Okay, Kazan, yeah. Oh, great, yeah.
Hands. He built all
Yeah.
this in one area.
Yeah.
And just like you said, because he wanted to.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting for you to see it.
Yes.
So if you're going to die in a week, which house would you go live in?
If I go to die.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question too. I mean, I must say, like, if I would have died like last week being on this island, because I only had this much food, I only, suddenly something becomes so precious. Everything becomes precious. An apple becomes so precious, or like a grape even, becomes like, because you only have maybe 3 grapes and you don't know when the next ship comes. And I was thinking, like, if I die here, I die here, like I die there. So like you have to go to the sea. I mean, it's a lake, right? And you have to go fishing, but I'm such a bad fisher, didn't catch any fish. And so like, but like, I think I would like to be a little bit everywhere. And I already have organized that, well, this is very private, I think. But like that, a little bit of ashes are going to go to Agadez, are going to go to Patagonia, are going to go to Indonesia, into the Amazon. Do you know which one you want to die?
I was going your first one.
The first one. Yes.
I'm intrigued by your choice of documentation for the homes, because as we were saying, a lot of them are really remote. And I was wondering the choices that you made with having a single image representing the homes and not having much
A
interior.
single what? I'm sorry.
A single image as we're going through the shots of your different pieces. I'm kind of just.
Do you want to see more?
Well, I'm just intrigued. I wonder.
No, but I don't want to show more. Like again, like it's not. You should not show too much, but because it's already sometimes you should not even show it. You should just maybe just write a poem about it, or like just tell them. It's very much. I don't know. You probably read Saint-Exupéry, The Little Prince, right? Where he describes also like And it's always like just a description. I have a house, a friend who has a house with flowers, what is it, with birds on the roof, and the person goes, aha. But if you say, like, I have a friend who has a house that costs 140 million, just, wow, that must be beautiful. So sometimes it's better not even to describe, you know, just like to say in itself, if you say, like, oh, I have this place in Patagonia, I can already see in people's eyes, wow, right? You don't even have to see it. And it's better not to show too much. Yes? Ah, you're Argentina. ¿Qué tal? ¿De dónde es?
Buenos Aires.
De Buenos Aires. Gracias. Gracias. Any more presents, or like, is that it? Like, yes?
Amount of houses, how often do you go and watch the sunset or sunrise in each one of them per year? And you don't have so many people to go and enjoy each house physically. So the only enjoyment we get here from your talk and the picture of it, and how much it costs you each house to go?
In what currency? In euros? I don't know. You know, like it's not something, I don't know. I mean, I know about how much this cost, the last project cost in Patagonia, and I'm not going to tell you. I mean, in 6 years, 10 workers, it was like on an island, and the materials need to be brought in from 250 kilometers. But by how many? A lot of figures. So how many times I see the sunset? It doesn't matter how much I see the sunset. It's how you see the sunset. Maybe if you see, do you look at sunsets? I do. Okay, from your house?
From my house and from my cottage. And I think it's beautiful from my house and my cottage.
Yes, yeah, okay, yeah. It's interesting.
I don't have to go to Africa to watch it. Maybe
Yeah, but you see, like sunsets or sunset, I mean, here, yeah, you're right. And you don't have to build, even if you go to Africa to see the sunset, you don't have to build a house. But I just do, you know. And it doesn't like, I see maybe, if I told you, like when I saw this one sunset, and I spent one night in this tower, and that was an incredible emotion. As I told you before, I couldn't sleep. And those moments are important, I think. Something like that is incredibly important, at least to me, that you have built something that you cannot sleep the whole night because it was so intense.
how many people they go and visit and
Oh no, not so many, not so many, very few. I mean, in Patagonia, there is one man that goes there once a week to look that everything is fine. Yes?
Maybe a little provocative. You're so open and you're so, I think, natural and spontaneous. Let me ask you this. So we heard that you're represented in great museums.
Yeah.
Did the curators of these museums ever see your work live with their own eyes?
What?
In
With
those
this work?
remote and inaccessible places? How do we know that these things exist? I mean, you tell them.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's actually, yeah, okay. Yeah, good, yeah. Yeah, so I'm the world great. I will also be the second great, what is it like by Buckminster Fuller? The second world greatest failure, right? Now, yeah, I understand your question. I mean, it's like writing poetry, and you are in the woods alone, and you write this poetry that no one ever reads, right? But it's like in the last few years, it's been a lot of publications on this. It was like, this is also on the cover of the New York Times magazine, T magazine, and like, so it's like a lot of interest just because it's something maybe unusual, you know, and curators, I don't know, how do the curators come? They come in maybe a bit later, or like, but it will happen. You know, it's not my concern. I just do this. I do this for myself. and for the people. Yes, Jeremy.
Just to clarify, you make sculptures, you also make paintings. Have you ever thought about putting any of those objects in these houses?
Yeah, yes, they are on the island in Patagonia. There are going to be 5 artworks, okay? One is an Armand, which I bought in Chile now. It's from the 60s. It's poetry that he threw away. And so it's like in this box, right? Clear box. Another one is the island, which I did out of Carrara marble, which is now in an exhibition in Chile. And then there are 3 pieces. You know, I've been doing these portraits in Africa with these boxes. There are 2 boxes, and the first box is in centimeters. The width is the day of the day you were born. If you're born the 25th of July, is 25 centimeters, 7 centimeters, because July is 7 months high, 19, and then maybe 62, right? So there are 3 pieces in this Notona. One is Allende, which, I choose 3 important people, for me at least, from Chile. Allende, it's Gordemater Clark, because he's also Chilean, and Neruda, of course. So like you have like this 3 boxes in it. Yes?
Some people think that Dallas is in the middle of nowhere. And I've heard it said often that we have some of the prettiest sunsets that they've ever seen. So you plan to build here?
I'm sorry.
Do you plan to build here in Dallas where we have pretty sunsets?
Yeah, sure. Like, give me the land. I think I could not afford the land. Yeah. You see, like, lots of people say, well, why sunsets? You know, it's something like almost kitschy. It's kind of like something superficial. There are more, I just read someplace that there are more photographs taken of sunsets than, and now, of course, with the new way of photographing, there are more photographs taken of sunsets than anything else. And if you go to Rio, there is like people around 6 o'clock, they all meet in near Copacabana, and they watch the sunset. I mean, thousands of people. And when the sun goes down, they applaud. You know, I mean, it's kind of like almost we need again a sun god. But it's just like that I like. That it's not something so, that is something so simple, but like that we are simply attracted to it. Yes?
I wondered about that, why you didn't, especially your 4-story house, why you could also see the sunrise, yet you seem focused.
Yeah, but it depends when you get up. Yes?
I saw connectedness also in the beginning to the pyramid, and I think that relates to something that you're talking about now.
Yeah, but yes, the pyramid, of course, like pyramids of stairs, and you have to go back to these basic forms. And like I cannot build a house, a schoolhouse for 500 children. The great about that house is actually that they're on top of it. That this mutation of school building that becomes actually a sculpture. It becomes like this kinetic sculpture. So that was like the only thing that came up. I don't know, it must be maybe another possibility. But all this was done really fast, I mean, that project with the school made it maybe in 10 minutes or so. I mean, the concept. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, excuse me, no.
However, I'm so happy being where born in Enschede.
In the Engadine, yeah?
Because
Oh, then the Swiss. Well, that doesn't take much, you know. I mean, we don't have a great sense of humor. Especially, I'm sorry, I should not say this, but like, I mean, it's sometimes I go back to Switzerland and I take the train to go up to my hometown from Zurich, and I hear what people are saying, and usually it's only the person who tells the funny stories who laughs, because it's not funny. Okay, it's not funny at all. So like. Yeah, I do my best to be, I mean, I don't know. You know. Okay, thank you very much.